And absolutely my favorite topic as well, from that point of view, and so much opportunity with this. I've loved the conversations that we've been having today with all the different women architects, and just in terms of both the establishment of business architecture and its rightful place, where it fits within enterprise architecture and in the business, as well as the value of business architecture and what it brings to the table. And one of the things that I would say about traceable measurement strategy is many conversations that I have with different business architects across the globe really is around how do we prove the value of business architecture? Like what's a good way of being able to establish that? And really traceable measurement is one of the most profound ways in which we can do that. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity today. Paul, if there are questions in the Q&A, I assume you'll be letting me know those as we go along. But really what I wanted to start with is just a look at where we are economically and from a corporate IT point of view. And some interesting facets, Forbes and other organizations doing research currently is that almost 65% of corporate IT is saying that they will have to do more with less next year. They have less budget, the economic pressures of inflation, increased interest rates, ROI not returning as expected, are all squeezing budgets for everybody. At the same time, we're also hearing from a majority of US businesses that they have not actually increased performance or profitability from the digital and transformation investments that they are making, certainly not in the ways that they had intended. And if you take those two components and combine them with the fact that 70% of digital transformation initiatives are actually not succeeding or failing because they lack a continuous optimization cycle. And often the goals that are set are not data-driven goals. And if you think about those three things, and then you look at the fact that the majority of CIOs are really struggling to communicate the value of IT itself, we realize that the situation that we're in is one that we have to start being able to demonstrate what business outcomes are being delivered, because really the business outcomes themselves may be a way of doing that justification. And so, my name is Claire Wybrow. I work for DMR. We're a global transformation digital consulting company. We're global, have offices all around the world, about 2,000 people. And one of the things that I love, and I love the previous session and listening to all the different consultants and how much experience that they have had with different clients, is it gives that unique insight across different global industries, cross industries. I've worked with really large, Fortune 100 companies. I've worked with really small nonprofits, etc. And so being able to have that perspective, I really think it's given that unique ability to understand how do we communicate, how do we demonstrate business value or business outcomes from our digital transformation investments. I've been doing this, for a while now. I've been a business analyst, a project manager, business process improvement specialist. I've helped organizations leverage multiple of the frameworks that we have out there, from BRMP frameworks to APQC process frameworks. And I'm currently working on the finance services reference model team for the Business Architecture Guild, and on the tooling team as well, with an amazing group of people that are really driving forward a lot of transformation in the business architecture area. And so one of the questions that I was thinking about with the different people that are joining today is, are these also common things that you are hearing? This pressure to demonstrate the value delivered from technology investments. As we said, it's a stat, but it's also something that consistently we are hearing from our clients, especially going into 2024. More and more focus on globalization, the need to actually do the same as we did before, that, hey, can you help me do that at a lower cost? What can we do to actually leverage different facets of that delivery to reduce the cost, so that we can still deliver value, but we just don't have the funding that we've had before. The desire to empower teams. you'll see that a lot in some of the agile, the product-centric creativity that's been driven. But how do we enable our teams and empower them to make better decisions on what they're actually building into what they're delivering? How do we enable our PMOs to make decisions, or even our business leaders to make decisions from a digital transformation perspective in terms of what might they double down on? What might they actually change direction on? And what might they just say, this is not working, we need to stop? But we want to be able to do those things based on data and value-based decisions, not necessarily on subjective and feeling. And along those lines, we're also seeing a lot of focus on OKRs. OKRs, if you're not familiar with it, objectives and key results, many organizations are moving to this. The need for business outcome conversations and what is it that we're actually going to achieve is driving people to actually start leveraging OKRs and goal trees and other mechanisms through the organization. And yet it's quite difficult sometimes to actually align a particular product development effort to a business outcome or an OKR itself. And so we're seeing both an increase in that enterprise focus, but then also some difficulty in actually saying, okay, I've got a great set of OKRs. Now, how do I relate that to my product that I'm doing? And then being able to communicate back. And finally, we know measurement is important. As you were saying, Paul, when you started, it's a key, right? We have to be able to measure the things that we're doing so that we can validate the investment and then we can actually continue that as well. But it's both known, it's understood, kind of simple. If you need to get something done, you've got a college degree you want to get, you have to pass a certain set of credits to get it. You know, it can be quite simple. But when you take that principle across a large organization, $1 billion, multiple different products, multiple global regions, multiple markets that they're in, it actually gets very complex and it's quite hard to know where to start. And so one of the facets we're thinking about knowing where to start is even just understanding why people are here today. Many people might be on this call and maybe on the business side. Business architecture, if we're focusing on that, I've seen in both the business side and the IT side. But multiple people here today may be here because they're frustrated about needing to justify a business need. They're wanting to get that thing that they know that they need to get done to meet a business goal over the portfolio line and into next year's portfolio, which is coming up for a lot of people. And they've actually done it multiple times, but they just haven't been able to get it over the line. Or maybe you're on the IT side and you're tired of being told what to do, but have the broader context of what you need to know in order to really deliver the quality product that's going to achieve those outcomes. Or maybe you have an infrastructure project or a legacy application modernization project that's keeping you low on debt, your tech debt, or you need it in order to deal with some security items or platform adjustment or rationalization, but you just can't seem to get that over the line either because different things trump it and you're still stuck without that infrastructure project in next year's portfolio. So whatever the need is that you have, or whichever side of the aisle that you're coming here for, when you think about traceability, a really good place to start is to understand from your organization's perspective, how does your organization drive its business strategy down throughout your organization? Different organizations do this differently, but based on how they're doing it, often gives you some insights as well in terms of how your executives are taking the work that's being done and are communicating it in the reports and things that they need to do to the CEO or the board or the investors, etc. And so that's one of the key starting points of measurement. And I've seen this in many, many different ways. We might have a mission and a vision that's known, it's out on your website, etc. So that part you get. But internally, there may be a set of strategic imperatives. There may be specific revenue targets. You may be part of a growing business architecture team that has business capability models defined, and you're trying to leverage those to demonstrate where investments need to be or where you maybe have an overinvestment in some particular capability. Tech priorities are also key in terms of what are you trying to do in terms of the roadmap for your organization from a technology, a CIO perspective. What is it that you need to have in place to really be able to take advantage? Almost every architecture conversation I have is around AI. So what are you doing with AI? What is your company, how is your company going to leverage AI? So if you want to be able to move and adopt all of these new technologies, you need to have tech priorities and baselines and platforms and roadmaps in place that aren't always necessarily there, but you have goals and visions for them. So regardless of what this is that your organization has, I think one of the key things that we need to know is understanding what it is that's driving that messaging down within your organization. And then for those who are doing the work in the organization, do they know how their work relates to that particular outcome, to that strategic imperative, or maybe even to your organization's mission? And so these are key things that we want to be able to know when you're going in to even start from a traceable point of view. As you start doing that and leaning into that, let's think about this a little bit in an overall business model. So this is a generic business model. Most businesses operate in some form. We have enterprise mission, vision, and strategy. There's a purpose that your organization has for existing, whatever that goal and vision might be. And in order to accomplish it, you have business strategy side that's going after it, and you have IT supporting strategy that's going after it. And there's some sharing between them in terms of what those goals are. But for the most part, a lot of that is then driven down between your different business organizations with goals for the year, business capabilities you need to develop. And hopefully, as organizations are maturing in this, more business objectives and key results that are driving those things. So on the business side, they have those. On the IT side, they have those. But one of the things that we find if you're a digital product, say you have a sales enablement platform that you're implementing, you have IT OKRs that you need to deal with, and you have business OKRs that you need to deal with. And all of those you want to drive into a set of KPIs that maybe have a Jira dashboard that goes with your product that shows you how you're doing, your sprints and your results and what you're doing from a KPI level. But sometimes there's a disconnect between what ends up in terms of measurement in your Jira dashboard for your KPIs and how those things actually relate to the OKRs themselves. And so if you think about that in this overall enterprise business model, the challenge at a digital product level to know which things or what actual context that they're operating in is increasingly difficult in our complex environments. You'll notice one of the things I have at the bottom is change management. I put that on every slide. I think it was actually mentioned in the previous conversation. If you're implementing any kind of technology, you're doing change management. You're changing the way somebody works. You're changing the way something operates, etc. And so regardless of what you're doing in the organization, exhort everybody to incorporate and include change management, understanding of change management within that. And certainly when it comes to traceable measurement, it's a huge part of the success that you're going to be able to have related to that. So if we think about that and we dig down a little bit deeper, typically what we end up with is executive leadership comes up with a goal. That goal of business OKRs get communicated down to business stakeholders. And then you might have BSMs or business success managers or business relationship managers, might have digital project managers or product managers or product owners, etc. And that can be this middle blue box here can be either on the business side or on the IT side. So depending on your organization, those roles may be in there. And they're responsible for taking and understanding what the business wants to achieve and communicating that over to IT and engineering and delivery. And then sometimes that goes through another translation to the digital product team itself. The digital product team, and I was mentioning earlier, they're also receiving things from IT, from an IT deliverable point of view that have to be incorporated. So your digital product team has multiple inputs into it in terms of what it needs to achieve. Best case scenario is that that digital product team understands everything that's coming to it, and they have excellent context, They understand the North Star vision related to it. They can put measures and metrics in place and can communicate back the results to all the different stakeholders to meet their needs. This is the best case scenario, and this is really kind of what everyone's going for and trying to get with measurable results. But unfortunately, often what happens in actual fact is that the product team itself really just has the situational awareness component. So if we're thinking about things from an agile point of view, we think about things from a product ownership point of view, we understand in the messaging that North Star context is really important, and make sure that our digital teams that are delivering on the products that they have can be creative, can deliver value, can do good value hypotheses, etc., related to what they're getting done. But the reality of what happens is often that it's only at a situational awareness that our teams start, and that they don't have the overall solution strategy that allows us to understand what the overall vision for that particular product is. Or sometimes what the solution strategy is actually dependent on, right, is OKR definitions, but those aren't necessarily communicated down to your product teams, nor is the North Star context map. What is it that is that product going to overcome for the business? What are the business outcomes that that product is designed for? So the reality is most businesses start from an agile point of view at situational awareness without necessarily having this full context. And so if you look at those two things together, situational awareness is here at the KPI level, but whether you're looking at it just from a pure business model perspective and the top-down need to actually drive all of the different business outcomes down to the product, or whether you're looking at it from good agile principle product development and you're thinking about situational awareness and how do you actually create good value hypotheses for your teams. Similarly, you want that team to be able to have this full North Star context to be able to do the most effective and most value delivery development they can do. And so if you take all of those different things together, maybe you have, as an example, an organization that has a mission and a vision to say, we strive to cultivate lasting connections with our clients and become an integral part of their journey. Maybe this is a life insurance company. Maybe this is a diabetes company that wants to help and treat all the way through the course of a particular disease. Regardless of what it is, this company has realized that they are losing customers. Their customer retention rates are dropping. And so they say, well, one of our strategic objectives for 2024 is that we want to increase customer retention rates. And that message goes down to the business units and to IT. And the business units, maybe they do a fantastic job and they think, well, in order to increase our customer retention rates, we need to understand what our business and customer needs actually are. Maybe we need to do some personal interactions that are much more aligned to that particular customer. And maybe we'll do some tracking on our overall satisfaction scores and things like that to see where we're improving. Maybe on the IT side, there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the organization, and they have 4 or 5 different CRM systems, and they recognize in order to resolve some of these issues, they need to consolidate, select the best of breed solution, migrate and transfer everybody into that, and build some new functionality within that. Or maybe that they recognize, well, if we need to do more personalization, or we need to be able to target our clients better, we really need to start leveraging the data we already have in our massive data organization, warehouses and information and history and everything. We need to be able to leverage that and even maybe leverage some new AI things about what's happening in the customer's life if we were leveraging AI and looking at different other platforms and ways of pulling those in. Maybe we need to have some of these things, plus many other things. And even better, that organization or that unit actually put KPIs in related to that. And they had a whole set of those things that they're saying, we can measure whether or not we actually enable personalized interactions in XYZ way. But the reality is of what we often see is that at a digital product team level, is that what the CRM product team gets is a feature request on the backlog, that they have a feature that they want to implement that pulls CRM data and supplies recommended talking points to salespeople when they're talking to a customer, and making sure that that leverages our data governance framework. Well, that's a great feature, sounds good. We need to be able to do that. But how much better would that team be able to be creative and understand what it is that they need to do if you were able to also include to them the fact that ultimately what the organization is trying to do is increase customer retention rates? If they understood what the business outcome was, the different capabilities or processes and things that need to be done to enable personalized interactions, and some of those metrics, like implement a recommendation engine to improve customer interactions versus I just know it's a feature. Oh, so I have a feature here, and the purpose of this feature, the reason it's been asked for is I want to improve customer interactions. And that's actually because I want to increase our customer retention rates. That might make your team more creative. They may come up with different ideas and different solutions around how they might implement that feature to create those talking points with that set outcome. And so this would be kind of the ideal scenario of tracing a business outcome from the business outcome down through to a particular feature in a product team. Even better, maybe, that we would look at adding some percentages, some goals, some details around that. So what does it look like for the organization, even the highest level, say, not just we want to increase retention rates, but we want to increase them by 20%, and we want to do it in the next year. That could actually completely change the way you might implement your feature. It might actually change different things that IT is looking at, say, in the consolidation of your different CRM systems, which usually is a multi-year process. But if we're able to start at that high level with some of that insight into what is it that the company is trying to achieve, and by the way, that's probably what the executives are actually being asked for in terms of what is the feasibility of increasing customer retention rates, excuse me, and how are they going to report on it. And so if you see in this light blue on here, maybe you can actually build out the depth of understanding about what that business outcome is, or what the KPI is as you drive down, because you're trying to improve relationship strength. You're trying to become an integral part of a customer's journey, means that you want to maintain that relationship throughout the customer's life cycle. And maybe if you come down here, you're not just looking for a recommendation engine to improve customer interactions, but you're really also wanting to increase the accuracy of personalized products that you deliver to them, or content suggestions that you may have, and you have a percentage on that. Now for your product team, well, similarly, they know that there's a central goal of having data governance and put in place, and the purpose of that to leverage the data across the organization to enable better business decisions, to increase insights and influence customer retention rates. And so that again drives down to that team. Now your product team is like, oh, so yeah, we want to leverage CRM data. We want to supply recommendations as talking points for our customers. And our purpose is that we want that first touch engagement to be better. We want to make sure we're leveraging our governance database. Maybe the team says, I wonder if we could leverage some AI in here. What else could we pull in via our governance framework? And then they're able to deliver value hypotheses that can come back and say, well, actually, we can contribute X to that outcome, or we can contribute Y to that outcome. Obviously, that particular feature is not going to enable the entire 20% of customer retention rates, because there are other things that sales and marketing might be doing, and other parts of the organization and policies. So this is one facet of increasing customer retention rates. But the team now has the ability to design a solution that's focused on that. And that potentially means that that team is also able to talk about the results of what that feature did in building the customer retention rates. The value of this is being able to do that communication back up through the different channels, whatever they are, at the right levels and whatever they are. Maybe there's some adjustment in the continuous monitoring of this that goes along the way, because maybe there's new insights that are coming in and the team adjusts for that. Maybe there's a new data pool that's available to them so that they could even be more personal. I hear you went on vacation, because they were able to actually pull that from a public source or something like that, so that there's that integrated connection with the customer. It may also be that there are other things that CRM team wants to put in that weren't there, that need different investment, etc., but that they can prove the value of adding some kind of AI into it, etc., because they can prove out with the value hypotheses of what that will do. And in addition to that, that team itself can now put things in place within the software to start to track the right things, so that this is actually data results coming from a system in terms of improved first touch, for example, or monitoring that customer's retention over time. Maybe you're using AI to look at particular dropout rates from customers, and you're going after those customers now, particularly because they're at risk based on some AI modeling, and you're able to go after them and improve your customer retention rates in a way that you weren't able to before. So all of these things, all of the key values of being able to do traceability through the organization. And one of the reasons that I started with a simple model like I have kind of laid out here is because there's lots and lots of ways of doing it. And over the years, having done it through Excel, Miro boards, I've worked with organizations that have strategic imperatives and business capabilities mapped through iServer and into ServiceNow, where they can then do portfolio planning for the coming year, and they can look at incidents and problems and all the different other facets, maybe some dispositioning on certain things. So you can be really simple, and you can start with an Excel spreadsheet that says these are the imperatives for the organization, and these are the initiatives, and these are the business goals, and what are we doing about that, and how do we trace to those things. Maybe you just start in Excel just to get started. You can leverage goal trees from that point of view if your organization is willing to do that. But whatever mechanism it is, one of the things that I do often see is that there might be an overall strategic goal, and then that is taken and interpreted by marketing and finance and product development and supply chain, etc. And they all have different things that they need to do to help the organization achieve those goals, but they don't necessarily have a direct relationship. It's more an interpreted relationship. One of the complexities of that on the IT side is that all of those different business units all have needs of IT. And so IT is managing their own goals and imperatives and things that they need to achieve, and all those different business ones. And those are interpreted and come over into IT, but also not necessarily traced. So one of the value adds of being able to start to do some traceable and to prove the value of it through is to also be able to show that complexity from an IT point of view on all the different things that are needing to be able to be achieved. And within that, with business outcome prioritization, understanding the investments that are there. And if we go back to our original stat, understanding the value of IT and how much it's driving from that point of view, you can start to be able to demonstrate more of the value of IT based on a business outcome for your organization as a whole. And so those are just a couple of different examples of those different things. And if there's any Q&A, and if you have different ways in which you drive things within your organization or other pieces like that, if you want to put that, we can talk about those different facets. But really, whatever mechanism it is, the key is to actually start with that engagement. There are many architecture tools as well. There are RDOG and Mega. I mentioned iServer. There's UM360. We use that at the Business Architecture Guild, etc. There are tons of really good portfolio planning platforms and things like that. But one of the key things that I would say, regardless of all of those different tools and different things to do, is that there really is no right way to do it. You don't need a tool to be able to start doing measurement. Some of the key things is really just actually getting it right and starting it in a small way, but not necessarily having to be dependent on engaging a whole tool set. There's an incredible amount of that you can do just by being able to look and research the data, like what your organization is leveraging to communicate those goals, and then trying to be able to tie it to a particular product or particular outcome. You probably won't be able to do it first round, but you'll gain a lot of insights within that. And within that insights, I believe that you'll find that one of the lessons learned, that people are the most complicated part of the process. And not by intention, but the fact that information is power, the fact that people are responsible for the outcomes, the fact that nobody actually really likes to be measured at the end of the day, especially in their area, but it's fine for everybody else in their areas. I think there's a lot of siloing between the business and IT. So one of those examples I was talking about in the beginning was where IT, there's a certain amount of just get it done. We need this. Can you build it for us? Just get it done, versus necessarily going through the process of understanding why or what the business outcome is or what they're driving to. And so I think there's a certain amount of measurement fear and also information sharing exposure that does come to play. So I think it's important to be aware of those things. Additionally, I would say a lesson learned is just start small. Start with one product. Start with one business area. Find one objective and key result within your organization that you can then leverage and be able to start doing some traceability of. And within that, address the change management side of it. And don't try and change the entire organization. What you're trying to do is prove out that there is value in measurement, that you can achieve business outcome communication from specifics in a digital product, and the value that that's actually going to bring to all the stakeholders, both IT and business. I've seen some scenarios where companies got a lot of different tech priorities, business priorities, strategic objectives, etc. And those are mapped to a series of initiatives that are being taken on, underwriting innovation, for example, or digitization, for example. And the net result of that is there's maybe 25 or 30 projects that are on JIRA that are actually delivering on those things. But the KPIs and the things in JIRA don't necessarily have a direct match. And sometimes it's by design that those are kept separately, because there's some interpretation that can be done on the messaging when it goes up the ladder. Sometimes it's just the mapping effort to do that is huge. So again, starting with one and being able to show one and where that relates can be extremely valuable and prove it out. A couple of other lessons learned, I would say, understanding your executives and what they are needing to report on is key. You want to be a value add to them. You want to be able to demonstrate a business outcome throughout the life cycle of that product and up to the business outcome in a way that helps them with their reporting from that point of view. So understanding what that is can make it that much more beneficial. Talk about engaging a third party. That is something that has been very valuable to different clients, to have a neutral third party to come in and facilitate just the one, so that they can leverage that success and then build that through the organization as they shift the culture to a business outcome-oriented culture. Sometimes it's beneficial to leverage a third-party consulting organization who can come in and manage some of those key dynamics that are going on without necessarily having any personal turf wars between IT and business involved. Last few things. One, middle management is key. I think it doesn't matter what you're working on from a change management perspective, every change management professional I think that you would speak to is that they're the ones in the middle. They're getting pressure from the executive, they're getting pressure from below. So finding your advocates in middle management is hugely beneficial if you want to start the process. And when you do that, show them what's in it for them. Show them why it would actually help them, not just I need you to do, right? So you need to have your messaging. Why? What's in it for me? Why should I be doing this? And what's it actually going to gain me from that point of view? And then once you have something, utilize your measurements. right? If you have traceability that says I'm going to have this kind of outcome, go back at the end of your project. Say, did we achieve the outcomes that we said we would? Yes, we did. No, we didn't. If it's no, what can we learn from that? If it's yes, what can we learn from that? So utilize what you put in place. Don't just trace it and then leave it at a trace point of it. Great, I can see how these things connect, but actually utilize those measurements to deliver results back through your organization. So those are just a couple of lessons learned from many years of doing it in lots of different organizations and doing delivery for clients, making sure that those actually do get to business outcomes. That I would say would be some of the common themes. Would love to hear in the Q&A if you have any own lesson learned, etc. Because I know there are a lot of phenomenal people on this call who are busy working on and doing this. And so finally, before we kind of get to that Q&A, how do you get started, right? How do I actually just start with something? I don't have the tools. I don't necessarily have all the buy-in. I know this is something that we need to do. First of all, as I started in the beginning, understand what it is. What are the drivers in your organization? We're taking enterprise strategy and communicating it down. How are your business units doing it? How are your IT, are they doing it the same? Are they doing it differently? Is there any traceability? So gather the data within your organization that's specifically related to the business outcomes. What's on your annual financial reports? What is your board actually talking about? What are you projecting to the market that you're going to do? Those are all things that you need to be able to understand. And there's a lot of that information that's out there. Without necessarily having to go to people. But so gather that information, understand where it's at, how it fits together. And then within that, look and find a starting point, a place in which you can know that you can start to deliver value. Maybe it's a small product on the IT side. Maybe it's a product on the business side. Maybe it's a marketing and sales strategy that you have. Whatever it is, or whatever side of the business that you're in, find something where in particular you have advocates for what it is that you're doing. And I would say advocates on both the business and IT side. It's surprising how many people don't realize that a business architecture team has a whole business architecture capability level 1 level model, and they're dying to integrate that into the organization, find the right people to do it or the right product to associate it with it. So find your advocates within the business and within IT, and then know who your detractors are and understand why. People are people. We all, don't operate in ones and zeros. We're people with reasons for being a detractor or being an advocate. So get to know them, know your detractors, know what the issues are, and perhaps you can win them over, but if not, you can at least understand where they're at. And a huge part of that, as I said, is communicating the what's in it for them. Every single time you try and get time from somebody on their calendar, their meeting calendar might have 3 meetings already or more at that particular time. So why should they join your meeting? Why should they respond to your email? What's the value add to them with all that they have to accomplish, doing more with less, that they might actually understand what it is you're asking for and why they would want to give you that time. And then, as I said, within that, just start mapping. Just find something using whatever tools you might have in your enterprise. If you have a large enterprise with a lot of tools, that's great. Sometimes the easiest way is just to leverage a mirror board or something like that, where you can just start being really organic and free flow and be able to pull those things together and pull the teams of people together in a place that they can collaborate and contribute. But getting started is a first place. You will learn so much about what you do know and what you don't know just to get started. And then finally, as I mentioned already, leverage your wins. Communicate the results in business language. So if you have an IT result today, maybe you're actually delivering something fantastic from your digital product, but you're articulating it in an uptime or in a particular technical way. How do you change the language of that and start to say what the business outcome impact of that win is? Because that in itself will start to help you change the culture, help show the benefits of traceable measurement within your culture, etc. And so those are just some quick ideas on how to get started in terms of traceable measurement. And so just wanted to open the floor, Paul, if you have any Q&A items there, but would love to have further conversation about any of this, but also wanted to leave enough time to have some Q&A from different people.
Hello, Claire. Paul had to run off to a business meeting, and I've taken over the show, I guess, from here. This was a really great presentation. There are a few questions that have come in. I'm going to ask the group if they have any more to go ahead and put them in. But are you ready to take a few now?
Love to.
Okay. So there was a comment made saying getting the link from portfolio to programs to outcomes and recognizing that enterprise architecture can play a key part in this. You know, we get that. How have you ensured that the enterprise architects can actually showcase the outcomes and the story?
So you're talking about the ability to show it visually or in some way, or the messaging for that, or are you talking about how do you actually make sure that enterprise architecture is involved in that process?
I would say both.
Yeah.
Let's take them both one at a time. Let's just peel that back. So, you know, architecture tends to be involved up front, right? In most cases. And so how do you get architecture to be involved in the outcomes, you know, kind of the back end?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you have to build that into an expectation that when you're going into a roadmap, and architecture is all about roadmap and planning, that you can't do the ongoing roadmap if you don't know what the result is, because your roadmap should change, right? Depending on what you did achieve or didn't achieve. So that roadmap is a living roadmap based on new things coming to the market that might result in adjustments, and also outcomes from the previous year or the previous cycle or whatever it is. And so to me, enterprise architecture should be an integral part of that. I do often see, though, that although enterprise architecture does get involved in the beginning, it gets handed over to the PMO and delivery and product teams, etc. They start working with the business side of things to make sure that, and it's as much the projects and themselves that forget to go back to architecture and engage them in those things, either during the course of the project where there may be some changes, or at the end of the project in terms of measuring those outcomes. Part of that is actually that the business benefit realization is often talked about, but it's not fully done. Most people come to the end of the year in the project that they're working on, and guess what? They're thinking about the portfolio for next year, they're building a business case, they've got to get that, the project's finished, and they don't actually go back and do the measurement in terms of what the outcomes were. And so I think there are multiple different areas that the ball kind of gets dropped as you go along that path, where that results in enterprise architecture not necessarily getting involved. The solution to that, I would say, was twofold. One, enterprise architecture has the same pressures on them. They have more work to do than they have time to do. But there's some facet of them staying engaged, not at a solutioning level, which we all try to do from a project point of view, but at an enterprise level, at an architectural level, stay engaged with where that's at. Were there any changes in that project? What was the business outcome? And being able to incorporate that into your roadmap. So that would be a key part of that. And then I would say also your product owners, your PMOs, or whatever, enterprise architecture is a good thing. I think in the previous call, they were talking about how enterprise architecture used to be kind of like an eye-rolling thing. It's the same as governance, but good enterprise architecture, good governance are actually value adds. They're things that do have something in it for you. They will help you be better on the next round and the next time. So I think both sides of those need to actually make sure that the outcomes are taken into the roadmap.
Okay. In a minute, I'm going to bring on our next speaker who has a question for you, but I have one other question I wanted to ask from another viewer. And that is, when we talk about, you know, the traceability, you are obviously measuring strategy and explicitly linking OKRs to capabilities, correct?
to business capabilities, if you're talking about that. Yeah, I think both business capabilities kind of sit next to your business goals. And it depends on your organization. Business capabilities are really maturing, and we're seeing them being leveraged more and more from that point of view. But sometimes they are difficult for a business to actually get, because it's more that at that what level in terms of a capability. And so understanding our goals and strategy. So what are your business goals? And what business capabilities do those business goals affect? One of the things you can do even with the business capabilities is look at some people, process, and tool. How effective is that business capability? What are the people needs around it, etc. So I would answer that question by saying both. So if you take your strategy and you measure that down into your business goals for the year, I would also make sure that you're incorporating the business capabilities, both from a strategy level, top down, and also from a business goal level, sideways. And both of those can be taken down into your digital product.
Okay. And then that could obviously influence kind of a heat map or any other kind of tool you're using that you could use for communication, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, business capability models, if you do a level 1 heat map on a business capability model, and you can get your C-suite to engage with it and understanding these are the capabilities that we need as an organization to be effective, and to do a heat map of where you're doing that successfully or where you have needs, can be an extremely effective tool. I've taken a business capability level 1 map and mapped the current year's portfolio to that, and use that as a different kind of heat map. And suddenly you see, oh, well, I have all these different capabilities, and I have like a concentrate of 13 things over here, right? In one particular area, usually like product engineering on a product side or marketing side, ton of things on the IT side, but maybe finance is actually doing a whole bunch of stuff still in Excel. And they're just doing it with incredible discipline and proficiency or whatever. But don't you really want to kind of get them out of Excel? Like, maybe their technology is a red and their people and processes are green, right? So I think you can leverage those tools in lots of different ways. Part of it is, what is your organization willing to engage with? So that's why I started with saying, from a strategy perspective, or even your own approach to it, is what does your organization use? What do they connect with? What makes sense to them? If there's a enterprise goal tree, well, how do you communicate what you're trying to do in the context of that highest level goal tree? Because now you can engage with an executive suite related to that.